What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and today I'm gonna show you how I found, ran the numbers on, and purchased this duplex. I'm also gonna talk about one of the bigger mistakes that I made that just helped reiterate how important it is to not manage your properties on your own. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. Because I didn't record from the very beginning, I decided to put together a group of videos that shows every single deal throughout the entire process, from when I purchased my first deal to my last deal. So this video is going to show the 14th deal that I ever did on this duplex. So I'm gonna show you how I found it, talk about the numbers, and talk about one of the huge mistakes that I made during this process so that hopefully it will help you not make the same mistake when it comes to managing your own properties. So to kick things off, this is a property that I've done videos on in the past, but I've never really dove into all of the details when it comes to how I found this specific deal, what the exact numbers were, and in any of my other videos, I kind of kept a big secret away from my viewers because I was ashamed of it. So if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm gonna show you one of the bigger mistakes I made with this specific property that I haven't shared with you guys in the past. And I decided I wanted to share it because I think it's going to be a great learning lesson for you, even though it was a very stupid mistake for me. Now with this property, I purchased it well over a year ago. We might even be pushing 2 years now, but the way that I found it was very unique. And if you click on that link I showed you before, I'm gonna show you all of the different ways to find properties, but this one was awesome because I had actually called on this property when I saw a for sale by owner sign. Now, when I got a hold of the owner, I said, hey, I love the property. What are the rents? What's the rundown? And I fell in love with it. However, at that time, my financial situation wasn't where it needed to be for me to pull the trigger on it. It was a good 3 or 4 years ago. And I know you're saying, well, Chandler, you said you just bought this in the last 1 to 2 years. That's true. What had happened is I connected with this lady. I went through the whole process. I was going to pull the trigger on it, but it just didn't feel right. At that time, I was working on some other deals. I wasn't quite as liquid as I would have hoped to have been. And for some reason, I just couldn't get over the edge to purchase it. So I flipped it to my parents because they didn't have any rental properties at the time. And I said, hey, this really is a good deal. I think you should buy it. Now they got excited, they got approved for a loan, and they used that loan approval to go and buy a new house. So they ended up bailing on the duplex, and after going through me and my parents, turns out the lady was like, hey, maybe I don't want to sell this right now. So she took it off of the market. Now, what happened is it sat there for a while. I noticed it wasn't on the market. I assumed she had sold it or maybe just decided not to sell it at all. And so I kind of just checked it off my list. I wasn't thinking about it. Now, fast forward, I got to the point where my financial situation was substantially better and the market had gone crazy. I knew it was a very clean duplex and I knew that I could get the rents up quite a bit in this new market from where they were. And so I figured, what the heck, I'm having a hard time finding deals. I'm gonna call her back up. So I called her up, I said, hey, I don't know if you remember me. I'm not even sure if you still own the place, but would you be willing to sell? And she said, you know what? I was actually thinking about listing it again. I still own it. I would love to sell it. So once again, we go through the whole process. And at this time, I was able to get her down to $125,000 on the purchase price. And what I was able to do to get that, I had actually remembered what the purchase price was before. And I said, hey, I know we kind of bailed on you last time. We decided the deal wouldn't work, but would you be willing to sell it for the same price you originally said? If so, it's a done deal. I'd love to go forward on this deal. And she said, yeah, let's do it. That sounds awesome. So I was able to connect with this lady that I had literally put in an offer on this property a long time before. She'd taken it off the market and I was able to get in an offer that she accepted at what she originally was willing to sell it for. So I was stoked. I'm sure she was stoked and everything was awesome. Now we went through the whole inspection and at the time rents were at $450 and $650. Now I was very excited because I knew I could get rents up. And for a purchase price of $125,000, those current rents didn't make sense, but I knew they would once I was able to up the rents. If you're wondering, Chandler, how did you know those numbers were good for this property? I'm gonna show you on my brand new app that we just released. Now, if you don't have the app, you can download it on the App Store and you just plug in CDS rental calculator, and you're gonna have this app right on your phone so you can run numbers in under 60 seconds on a property, and I'm gonna show you how to do it. So with this property, you plug in the purchase price of $125,000. Now, on this property, I was able to get her to cover all of the closing costs but 1%. So I got stuck with 1% of the closing costs. The down payment was 25%. The interest rate at the time was a 4.2, and this was on a 30-year loan, so you can plug all of that in. Now with her rents, she had rents at $450 and at $650. You can add those together and see that that puts you at $1,100 in rents. Vacancy, I was gonna guess about 6%. That's usually what I plug in. On maintenance, I plug in 12%. On management, I plug in 8%. For insurance, we're gonna plug in $220. If you're saying, Chandler, that seems absurdly low, time to look for a new insurance guy. Mine is awesome. I've had multiple claims that we've been able to get through with no issues, and he makes sure for my investment properties, I am set up. So that's dead on. $220 on insurance. For taxes, I was right at $1,100. So if we run the numbers on this, you can see that we are ending up with a cash on cash return of a 8.09%. So I know a lot of you are saying, Chandler, that is not your desired return. You've always said at least above 10%, preferably above a 15%. I get it, all right? But I knew this was a property that I could raise rents in. Let's go back and see with what I think rents could be at. Now, for me, I was very confident that I would be able to get $750 on the top unit and $550 on the bottom unit. So you add those two together, that's going to put you at $1,300 in rent. So instead of $1,100, let's put $1,300, and now let's run the numbers on this property. Now you can see that comes back at a 13.7% cash on cash return. The other thing you've got to keep into consideration, I do get a little lower on my management, but I still like to run the numbers with an 8% management because I know if anything were to happen, I can at least get that from anyone. So realistically, my actual return is going to be higher, but this did meet my requirement of 10 to 12. Now it wasn't quite 15, but during this time period, I was pumped on a 10% cash on cash return because I was very liquid at that time and I felt like this was a very clean property that wasn't going to need a lot of work or a lot of maintenance.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's good.
Now we jumped in to do the inspection and we found that the roof had major issues. Everything else was super clean. I called her up and it was interesting because she was already planning on changing the roof because it had hail damage. So we set it up and her people came and fixed the roof and got us a brand new roof on this property, and everything else was super clean. So looking at it, it was an unreal deal. Really, I feel like we knocked it out of the park. We got a great setup on financing and everything else, and I was pumped. However, something very unique happened. Because I was over on the property a lot, meeting up to make sure that the roof got done and everything was smooth, I ended up interacting with the tenants. Now, I didn't think this would be a huge deal. However, what happened is they found out that I was the owner of the property. So they started communicating with me when it came to rents. The other thing, and I think I talk about this in the other video when I was discussing this property, but the bottom renter was actually getting evicted. And so we waited until that bottom tenant was evicted before we took ownership of the property. So now I've got this relationship with the top tenant because I've been at the property a lot, making sure that we get the roof on and everything goes smooth, and she knows I'm the owner. So she starts communicating with me and saying, look, I'm really excited to work with you. We love this place. I've been here for years. I'm taking really good care of it. And my son just got into a place where he's now wanting to move into our city, and I would love it if he could live below us. So I was going to see if we could get an application into you. I knew before they were renting at $450, so I think that would be an awesome setup for him. He's great. He can pay the bills. It'll be perfect. So now I'm like, oh man, this is a lady that I built a relationship with. I'm a really nice guy. I don't want to fight over an extra $50 or $100. I don't want to be that guy. She's been super sweet with me. And all of a sudden I start really justifying why it's okay for me to just put them in at cheaper rents. I'll still cash flow. I'll be good. So I say, you know what? Why don't you have your son send in the application? I'll personally look at it, work with him, see what we can work out. After we go back and forth a little bit and I personally take ownership over the negotiation, instead of turning it over to my management company like I should have, I end up agreeing to give her son the same rent in the basement and not change her rent and sign her for a new lease. Now what happened is I closed on this deal. I knew I had the place under rented and I'm super bummed with myself because I'm a total softie and now I'm getting an 8% cash on cash instead of a 13% cash on cash until their lease runs up. Now, I ended up doing a video on finding this deal. Actually a duplex that I bought this year. I'm actually cash flowing extremely well, but I actually lied in that video. And for me to say that it's renting for $500 in the basement unit and $750 in the upstairs unit would be a lie, And it's eaten me alive since I've done it because I just said what rents should be instead of what they were. Now, we have since been able to increase rents to where they should be, and everything is awesome and it's a great property, and not getting as big of cash flow during that year period, or I think it was only 6 months that we ended up signing her new lease for. It wasn't the end of the world and we were able to bump rents in the future. However, it was a stupid mistake because if you're going to manage your own properties, you've got to set your criteria and you can't get emotional about it. Now, if you're me and you're worried that you're going to get emotional or you're going to say, you know what, it's not that big of a deal, you have to get a management company. That's why for me, I talk a big talk when I've got 103 units and I've got people that we've been able to raise rents to market value and every month they pay their rent, they pay it on time or else. That's awesome. But the reason I've been so good at that is because I hired a good management company. And so for you, it's so important to either one, know that you can manage it properly and hold to your numbers, or two, hire someone else and make sure that they do. So that was the huge mistake I made with this property. Otherwise, it ended up being an awesome investment. Now it's cash flowing like a king and I'm extremely happy about it. However, that was a mistake that hopefully you can avoid in the future. Now, if you enjoyed the video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you hit the bell so that you can see my future videos, because my goal is for you to see all of the different properties I've purchased, a lot of the mistakes I've made, how I've analyzed those deals, so that you can analyze deals properly and get yourself into an awesome situation where you've got huge passive income. If you enjoyed the calculator, go onto the App Store and download it. It's completely free. And if you loved watching me analyze this deal and seeing how I found it, and you personally are looking for deals and want some mentorship, I actually do a mentorship program. You just go to chandlerdavidsmith.com and you can sign up. I love doing a 30-minute call with you, whether it's walking through a property, answering any of your questions. I would love to have the chance to help you to get into that next investment property. So again, if you enjoyed the video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future videos. Thanks guys, have a great day.